Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are recording.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. This meeting is open to statements from no more than 5 members of the public of no more than 2 minutes in length each. Mr. Taylor, do we have anyone requiring public input?
I would ask if any members of the public in the audience at the moment has a question, please unmute and turn on your webcam. Mr. Mayor, I think we're good to proceed.
Thank you. Item 3, are there any late additions or deletions for the agenda, Council? Hearing none, therefore I require someone to move that the March 1st, 2020 regular council meeting agenda be adopted. Councillor Howe moves and Councillor Wiebe seconds. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. There being no delegations or public and statutory hearings, we'll move to item 6.1, adoption of council meeting minutes. I need someone to move that the February 16, 2021 regular council meeting minutes be adopted as presented. Who will move? Councillor Hopful, second Councillor Leach. Any discussion, errors, or omissions? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 7, business arising from the minutes. 7.1, supporting resolution for the Lillooet Agricultural and Food Society grant application.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the February 16th regular council meeting, the Lillooet Agricultural and Food Society, along with Lillooet Volunteer Connect, made a delegation presentation to council asking for their support for some grants that they are applying for the innovation hub that they are looking to start in town. Council gave staff direction at that meeting to work with the LAFS Society, and we have come forward with these 2 resolutions which will support their grant applications. Neither of these grant applications are going to conflict with any of the grant applications that the District of Lillooet is currently applying for. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Who will move this recommendation, item 7.1, numbers 1 and 2 as written in the agenda? Councillor Leach, second Councillor Howe. Any discussion? I'll call the question. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 8, no rise and report. Item 9, correspondence and petitions. Any member of council would like to lift a piece of this correspondence? Let me know. Let us know. They're seeing none. Therefore, I need someone to move that the correspondence included in the information report dated February 24th, 2021 be received for information. Who will move? Councillor Howe, second Councillor Leach. No discussion. Call a question. Those in favor? Councillor Wiebe, I can't see your hand. Thank you. Item 10, reports from committees of council and commissions. None. Reports and presentations from staff. 11.1. A bylaw to enforce bylaw notices.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, Mr. Oiki has been called out to a fire, so I'm actually going to pass this on to the Deputy Corporate Officer to give the introduction, and then we'll take questions. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Council. Good evening to Council, staff, and members of the public. We have here for you a staff report respecting the presentation of a draft bylaw to enforce bylaw notices. So this bylaw to enforce bylaw notices may sound familiar, as we addressed requesting to be added to the roster of municipalities participating in this regime. So bylaw notices are, as you may recall, this was presented in a previous council meeting, December 7th, 2020. But I'll just recap things. This particular bylaw enforcement regime would enable the municipality to have an additional remedy for enforcing bylaw infractions. It's a user-friendly type regime, and it offers some benefits to the municipality in terms of cost savings and streamlining the process. So some of the benefits include not needing to provide personal service for notices that are similar to a ticket. They can be mailed, for example. The regime is also notable in the fact that if a citizen wishes to dispute a bylaw notice, they can apply to an internal adjudication process offered by the municipality. And this is a regime being embraced by municipalities all over BC. And some of our recent neighbors have joined this regime, including Pemberton, and more recently, the village of Clinton as well. So another benefit can be if we do have a citizen who disputes a bylaw notice, they can, if they choose, they can have the adjudication take place by telephone, by video, or an in-person adjudicator. And this would be an independent third party assigned through the provincial government. And we could arrange to cost share that type of arrangement. So for example, if one or twice a year we needed an in-person adjudicator, we could share that with one of our neighbors and have a joint hearing. So there's some very substantive benefits to participating, and I'd be pleased to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from council? Councillor Howell?
Hi, sorry, I was about to, I'm like, where's my little hand up button? Yes, please, Ms. Gee, I have a question regarding, well, Schedule 12, the sign petitions. Under the no sign permit, no sign without permit. So I'm just curious, as we embark on spring weather and we have many families in neighborhoods with small children, these children will be on the streets, and you know, unfortunately not everybody obeys the speed limit, and oftentimes we find that people are coming through these communities quite quickly, or these neighborhoods quite quickly. And if parents were to put signs out, you know, the little tent signs that say that, just a bright yellow sign as a reminder that there are children playing, would that fall under the no sign? Would we require a permit for that, or would there be a way to waive that particular situation?
You're muted if you wanted to speak.
I'm muted too. You're muted, Mr.
Corporate
Taylor.
officer.
Okay, it's about time that I was the victim of that. So you're welcome, everyone. So this is us falling into one of those gray areas of regulation where, yes, technically, by the letter of the bylaw, those please slow down signs would require a permit. But if we're looking at the realities of the intent of what those signs are for, that they're not permanent signs, and as long as they're not obstructing traffic, I don't believe that any bylaw enforcement officer in this town is going to ticket a parent for that. Now, if council wants to ensure that doesn't happen by regulation, then I would ask that council direct staff in a future review of the sign bylaw to explicitly exempt those signs. However, I can say with a fairly strong sense that no one is going to be ticketed over those particular signs.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Hoppel?
Yes, through the mayor. So I think this is a really good bylaw notice that we've got here. And so just to kind of clarification, if we were to issue a bylaw notice for something like, say, somebody had a rooster and the owner disputes the charge, he's got 14 days to dispute it. And then the adjudicator gets involved and, you know, everything happens. If the district is deemed correct, are any of the adjudicator costs projected onto the owner for the rooster, or is it just something that the district will provide as a service?
Well, one thing I should mention that I did not is we also have an option under a compliance agreement, under which many of the bylaw infractions note that the citizen may apply to have a compliance agreement in place. Some of the offenses are not eligible for that, but that is an additional tool in order to gain voluntary compliance, which is always our goal, to keep our communities safe and healthy and comfortable. And my understanding is if someone applies to adjudicate, they are charged a $25 fee, and we would be responsible for the costs of that adjudicator.
Okay, thanks.
And keeping in mind, we may be able to share those costs if and when anyone insisted on a in-person adjudication.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Councillor Leach and then back to you, Councillor Howe, after that.
Good evening. So I'm just wondering, does staff have a plan to roll out an education process to the community on how this is going to work, I guess? Like, are we just going to rely that people read the minutes, watch this video, maybe a story gets picked up in the newspaper, or do we have something in place where we can really educate people on what this looks like for them?
I think we will build on past practice, which is to educate through the newspaper and our social media account, as well as the website. We'll also post on the notice board, and staff would be happy to take additional direction if council so chooses.
Mr. Mayor, if I may as well, as always, we are seeking voluntary compliance. We're not looking to punish. The BNEB bylaw and the ticketing scheme within it are meant to be an extra tool. They're not meant to be the primary tool. So I imagine that through this first summer, which is often the highest ticketing time for any municipality, we will ask the bylaw enforcement officer to engage with the public, to educate them about what the rules are, and then if there's repeat offense, then we will look at ticketing. Now, this may not be possible for every single infraction, such as parking, because you can't always find the person to let them know. But parking regulations are fairly standard across the province, so it would be other things like the land use issues that people may not be used to having enforced.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Councillor Howe, you had another question or comment?
Yes, thank you. For Schedule 13, there's...
Wait, can I interrupt there, please? We have lost Councillor Weeb, is that correct? Would be good to get her back before we continue.
We have been having some technical difficulties. I've been in contact, and I believe the CAO is working through it with her at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Howe.
Okay, under Schedule 13 for traffic regulation penalties, one of the bullets is use of vehicle as living quarters. And I do struggle with this one, particularly because with the costs of rental options, the lack of affordable housing, and all socioeconomical issues that we face currently, I do feel that removing a safe shelter space for some people this is not really the time to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this particular, and again, everything in this bylaw is not setting regulation. It is referencing regulation that already exists in another bylaw. So for this instance, I believe it's Section 12 of the Traffic and Parking Regulation Bylaw. So the use of vehicles as living quarters is prohibited in that bylaw as well as in the zoning bylaw, and its intent is to prevent people from parking on the road, camping on the road right of way within town, or for using a recreational vehicle as a dwelling unit on a property that is not zoned for that. The intent of this particular section is not to be chasing away or punishing people who are having an economically troubled time. Those are issues that, if we come across them, we can refer them to those groups that have the means to help them get back onto their feet, which certainly $100 ticket is not going to do. So it does come back down to that, trying to seek voluntary compliance. So that voluntary compliance, please move along, may lead to the conversation where we can help direct that individual or individuals to the services that they need and are provided.
Thank you. Welcome back, Councillor Weeb. Before I go to Councillor Leach, do you have any comments, questions on this item 11.1?
Not at the moment. I'm afraid to touch anything or move anything. I just keep freezing and I don't know why.
Well, you're good now. Okay, Councillor Leach, go ahead.
Thank you. And just for clarification too, this does not mean that our bylaw enforcement officer is going out and actually hunting infractions. The complaints still need to come in a written format through the office. Is that correct?
Yes, and unless the policy is asked to be changed, we still are on a complaint-driven enforcement scheme. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leach. From my perspective, if I can say, obviously, this council initiated the bylaw enforcement to be one of more of education than anything else from our very beginning.
And sorry, I believe we've lost the mayor. So while he finishes that, I'm actually just going to add something on to Councillor Leach's question.
If I can finish this is more driven to make sure that we're covered, that we're able to enforce something if we need to. And it is unfortunate that we have a very few people or folks that are flagrant and kind of fly in the face of our requests and common sense educational approach. Okay, anything else from council? Mr. Taylor, go ahead.
Sorry, you froze there for a minute, so I did start a second part to Councillor Leach's question, which is, I could see the bylaw enforcement officer taking a more active approach if it is a health or life safety or fire safety issue. those would trigger a response rather than waiting for a complaint. Thank you.
Yeah, good. That makes sense. Any other comments, questions, concern from council? Hearing none, and I need someone to move that the bylaw notice enforcement bylaw 2021-002 be introduced and read a first and second time. Who will do that? Councillor Wiebe, second Councillor Howe. Any further discussion on item 1? I'll call the question. Those in favor? Carried, thank you. And now I need someone to move that the bylaw notice enforcement bylaw 2021-002 be read a third time. Who will so move? Councillor Wiebe, second Councillor Hoppel. Any further discussion? And obviously it will come back at a future time, future meeting for adoption, so it still gives people and ourselves time to mull this over. So I'll call the question. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you, council. Bylaw item 12.1, utility rate bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just building on our last February 16th council meeting. These water, sewer, and garbage collection bylaws include a 1.1% increase in user fee rates over 2020, which again were froze in 2020 at the 2019 rates. Without these bylaw amendments, residents of the district would actually be looking at over an 18% increase in their water and sewer rates for 2021. Again, staff is recommending no less than this 1.1% increase. If there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. LaRue. Any questions, comments from council? Councillor Hoppel.
Through the Mayor, Joni, I just love this new spreadsheet. Good job. I can see the water, the sewer. Still don't understand the difference between the barbershop and the beauty salon pricing, but you know, I think it's really good. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hoppel. Any other questions, comments from council? Okay, I'd like someone, no, did I miss anybody? No, good. I would like someone to move item 12.1, written, as written, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We will move. Councillor Hoppel, second Councillor Wiebe. Any further discussion? I think everyone will be happy it's not 18%. Thank you, staff. Thank you, council. I'll call the question. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Move to 12.2.
And again, water and sewer parcel taxes. Staff is recommending that the water and sewer parcel taxes each be increased by 1.1%, which is BC CPI as of October of 2020. The two parcel taxes have been in existence for the last 5 years. These aren't new parcel taxes. We did previously up until the 2021, so this coming property tax year, also have a Central Lillooet sewer treatment plant parcel tax. That one is no longer in effect. Residents that were paying that parcel tax last year will actually see a small credit on their property tax billing this year because the long-term debt has now been paid off in full. So they'll no longer see that parcel tax charge on their property tax billings, and actually will see a small credit this year. These two parcel taxes that still remain in effect affect all property owners within the district of Lillooet that are capable of being connected to either the water or sewer system of the district, regardless of whether they are connected or not. It's just the ability to connect.
Again, these parcel tax bylaws have a 1.1% increase of the rates that were in effect for the last 4 years, and these would be in effect for the next 5 years, at which point it would be reviewed again.
Thank you, Ms. LaRue. Any questions, comments, clarification from council? I see none. It requires someone to move that water service parcel tax bylaw number 2021-011 be adopted, and that sewer service parcel tax bylaw number 2021-012 be adopted. Who moves? Councillor Wiebe, second Councillor Howe. No further discussion? Any? I'll call a question. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Well done, Ms. LaRue. Well done, staff. We'll move to item 13. 13.1 is work in progress as of February 24th, 2021. Council, you have that in your agenda. Any questions or comments or clarification required? Will someone please move that the work in progress as of February 24th, 2021 be received for information? Moved by Councillor Leach, second Councillor Howe. I'll call the question. Those in favor? Carried, and thank you. We'll move to item 14. 14.1 is a resolution, a notice of motion for a resolution to support Vernon and the Regional District Kootenay Boundary no cost access to all prescription contraception in BC under the Medical Services Plan. Councillor Howe, you wish to speak to this or move it?
Yes, I wish to move this, please. And before I move to therefore be it resolved, I would just like to draw attention to the third whereas, only because I think it is so key and so very important. So I'm just going to read it briefly. Whereas contraceptive methods such as condoms or vasectomies are available at low cost, no cost, or are covered by BC's medical service plan, whereas all contraceptive methods for people with uteruses, such as birth control pills, gosh, I keep struggling with this word, intrauterine devices or hormone injections, have high upfront costs, making access to contraception unequal and gendered. I really find that this is about providing females with more control over safeguarding their bodies rather than in an affordable way. And that's why I'm asking council, please, to let it be resolved that the District of Lillooet write to the Provincial Minister of Finance, the Provincial Minister of Health, the Premier BC, and the local MLA supporting universal no-cost access to all prescription contraception available in BC under the Medical Services Plan.
Thank you, Councillor Howe. Councillor Howe has moved. Seconder, please. Councillor. The seconder, please. Did anybody raise their hand? I can't see it. I will second it. So any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Hoffel.
So I really struggled over this one too. To me, you know, we have a lot of systems currently in place, and young adults can purchase contraceptive through the health unit with a prescription for a fraction of the cost, whether that be birth control, the ring, the shot. IUD costs $400 and lasts approximately 5 years. Condoms are free in any hospital or health unit. All that versus what an unplanned pregnancy would cost in the system. So before I would agree to give free birth control, I'd also like to see reduced costs to contraceptives. Like if we took the health unit prices and put them, to the pharmacies and just did a basic reduced cost, and then measure the impact after that system is put in place. Because every time we say yes to providing a new service or a free service, then that has an impact, whether that's on the taxpayer or that's on another program. Like, what are we willing to give up in order to give free contraceptive? Part of this does have an onus on individuals too. And I think we do have a lot of good programs out there. Not saying for everybody, but I'm just saying that I do think we have some good programs available. And the other thing that I don't see in any of this is, what is the cost? If we were to put out free contraceptives to everybody, what would that cost look like? So that's the only issue I have.
Thank you, Councillor Huffel. Any other comments from council? Councillor Howe?
I understand Councillor Hotful's concerns as well as suggestion. I think that's an interesting suggestion. And perhaps that would be a helpful way of moving forward. I have to wonder if perhaps it's already been considered, and that's why there's a large push to just clear it, to make it free for all. I think about those who are in a lower income bracket or who are youth, who are sexually active. They, even at a reduced price of $400 for something that could last for years, is that upfront cost that is going to make it very difficult for them to gain access to it. Thus, once again, placing that, not placing the responsibility on their male counterpart, but reducing their ability to have more control over what they're going to do in terms of securing themselves against an unwanted pregnancy. And it does say that it's less expensive in one of the whereases. Hold on here. Whereas providing free prescription contraception has been shown to improve health outcomes for parents and infants by reducing the risks associated with unwanted pregnancy and is likely to reduce direct medical costs on the provincial health system. So I do feel that by supporting this, it's a call to action to our ministers to have a sit down and look at what options there are in figuring out what do those price comparisons look like, and how do we move ahead with supportive measures for those with uteruses who may not necessarily have access to contraception.
Thank you, Councillor Howe. Councillor Leach, you have a question? You have a comment question?
Yeah. So going back 15 years, I guess, when I was in high school, when you made the comment of youth and low economic females, I guess, through the teen clinics, birth control was either provided free for those who needed it, like the birth control pills, or at a cost going through the medical clinic and then going to the pharmacy for a cost of $10. I don't agree with the whereas where it says birth control pills or intrauterine devices or hormone injections. I think that if you are in the position that you need help with contraception, you don't just get the highest costing option, I guess. I don't know how to say that in a better manner. But I just, I agree with Councillor Hopful. There are programs out there. There are programs in this community. And before supporting something like this, I would like some more data from our local community, local medical team, the teen clinics, our health nurses, on what it actually looks like in our community, as well as for the City of Vernon, because we seem to get a lot of their letters coming through our agendas, is are they pushing this through SILGA? So as our new SILGA reps, I'd like both Councillor Howe and Councillor Wiebe at maybe some of the SILGA meetings to ask, are they presenting this to SILGA? Is it going to UBC, or, and once it going through a SILGA resolution, is it going to a UBCM resolution as well? Because if we're gonna keep pushing for something like this, I want to know what other communities are on board with this, or is it just Vernon? And if it is just Vernon, why is it just Vernon? Like, I just think that there's a lot of questions that I needed answers before going forward with this. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Councillor Leach. Good questions. Good comments. Councillor Howe, one more shot at this.
Thank you. I know that this is not just the City of Vernon. This topic is around many tables in many municipalities, and it's not just about the youth. It's about adult women. I'll just say women, but adult females with uteruses who fall into a low income bracket. They don't have access to, perhaps they don't have the same access to contraceptive options for themselves, the way that in a manner of financial capacity that, say, a youth would. Speaking from my own personal experience as a youth, I was very unaware. This was not available, I don't think. It certainly wasn't flowing through my social sphere as an option. So, it's not just about the youth. It is about, the older females out there that are done. They don't want to bear any more children, but unfortunately, they don't have access to affordable contraceptives. So, all I'm saying is that by supporting this, we're asking the ministers to have a good little sit-down discussion, bring some ideas to the table on how this can be addressed in a way that makes sense. And it needs to be relatively open-ended. They're the ones that are going to figure out how this is going to look. But I think a push to have them sit and deliberate this is a great first step.
Thank you, Councillor Howe. I think we lost Councillor Wiebe again. Councillor Leach has comments, questions, clarification. I'd love to have Councillor Wiebe back in on this. Certainly.
We are working with Councillor Wiebe at the moment to get her back on.
All right, because I don't want to call a vote unless she's part of it. Councillor Leach, do you wish to go ahead?
Yeah, would you like me to wait until she can get back on, or?
It would be good if it's matters. So maybe if you want to sing us a tune,
I hear that.
share us that lake. I want to have that same background photo that you got there.
Well, I can share it with you.
Okay, Mr. Taylor, I see that we've got Mr. Oiki back. Did you want to have any information or input in this while we wait for Councillor Wiebe? Can I put this discussion on notice motion on hold, or do I have to pursue it?
Mr. Mayor, if we want to wait, then I would suggest that we just defer this item to later into the agenda, and then we carry on with the reports from mayor and councillors while we try and get Councillor Wiebe back, and then we can revisit this item.
Okay, that we shall do. So we'll put this notice of motion in abeyance until we have Councillor Wiebe back with us. So we'll move to item 15.1, Mayor's report. On February 22nd, the CAO, myself, and Mr. Sheridan attended a meeting at Urban Systems of Steve and John in order to pursue an approach with regard to the trust. In that meeting, we essentially, at the behest of Mr. Sheridan, that we look at rebranding instead of having the Bridge River Lillooet Trust. Can we look at it as a, sort of a legacy fund, which I thought was a great idea. Interestingly enough, right after the meeting in Kamloops, we came back. Essentially, they are going to give us a budget for us to seek funding, but also an approach strategically on how we should go. And you will notice in the correspondence that the Premier did reply, and it is of a positive vein. So maybe we have a good chance. I think this is probably our one last good crack at it. And I feel that with the positive outlook by the Premier in his call plus this letter, let's see where this takes us. So it'll be bringing back information and a proposal to council, hopefully in the near future. On February 23rd, the mayors and chairs of the Southwest region, we had a conference call, and essentially it was with Minister Osborne and also with Minister Malcolmson. Malcolmson being from overseeing mental health. Essentially, it was to update us on COVID and some of the financial capabilities by the Minister Osborne's office, which are still in abeyance and they are working on over the next month. So we're all in waiting and anticipation, but more so Minister Malcolmson wanted to determine what is currently working with respect to mental health and addictions in our community and what our biggest concern was. And I'm going to share it with you. I feel what's currently working, obviously, is that we're working in lockstep with Statlium Outreach Health with regard to the opioid crisis forums and that we have, hoping that we can gain more traction there. We're celebrating successes and we're supportive of the ones that have yet to succeed when it comes to addictions. And also the Interior Health has allocated to us in Lillooet a nurse, I think the end of December, and that's arranging so that this nurse can provide prescriptions much more readily and easily and will complement the OAT when it comes to addictions and the like. I've asked that IH Mental Health come and outline exactly what that program is so that council and ourselves and staff are fully aware of it, because I'm sure we'll embrace it. I have to say that I suggested my biggest concern with regard to mental health and addiction was the lack of our ability to gain traction with our leaders in education. And I found that disappointing, and I'm hoping that we can gain our educational leaders, the principals and the like, to work with us and with our youth. That's where we need to go. So I did that, and on February 26th, I attended the virtual Lillooet Health Planning Table. It's an ongoing process in which Interior Health and local health are working to assure that that the community is well serviced, and we're essentially putting together the terms of reference and agreeing on it at this point in time. That's it for me. So do we have Councillor Wiebe back?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have Councillor Wiebe back. She's having some technical issues, so at the moment she's going to leave her camera and her microphone off unless she does have anything to contribute, and she will turn her camera on for any vote. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And we'll revert back to item 14.1, and that is the notice of motion. But I'd like to hear if Councillor Wiebe, audio-wise, has any input or questions or concerns before we move forward.
I heard bits and pieces of the conversation. Like I say, I keep freezing up and getting booted out here and all kinds of strange things. I don't know. I'm not for supporting it, mainly because I think it's going to be way too costly. And I think that there are enough things out there. If you talk to a family doctor, the clinic, people at the hospital, I think there are things available. And the more you give people, sometimes the more they expect. And that's probably not a good statement to make, but that's basically how I feel.
Thank you, Councillor Wiebe. Any more input, clarification? Yes, Councillor Leach.
I just wanted to add to, as a comment, going back to what Councillor Howe was saying, I'm not against helping those who need it if those programs are not readily available to those who need it. But what I am against is providing this service that could have a high cost to taxpayers provincially with our medical services plan. So what I'm not okay with is having a service like this offered to those who are privileged enough to be able to get it themselves, but choose not to because they can just get it for free. So that's why I'm not going to be able to support this at this time, because that's not addressed, as well as I would like to see more data locally. So I'm sorry, I won't support it at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Leach. Okay. Any further input? Okay, the notice of motion 14.1 has been moved by Councillor Howe and second by Mayor Bussey. We've had discussion. We'll call the question. All those in favor? Those against?
Councillor Wiebe, can you please indicate your vote? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, folks. Motion was not carried. Okay, we'll move on to item 16.1, Councillor Hoffel report.
Thank you. Okay, February 16th, we had the committee of the whole meeting, followed by the regular council meeting. February 20th, I had a historical meeting, and we discussed setting up a strategic plan. There were some really great ideas tossed around, and we shared positive input, but it will be a lot of hard work for this coming year. So if you or somebody you know has some time and would like to be involved in the Historical Society, please email the district office or myself, or contact Mrs. Vera Bussey, our president, and let us know. February 25th, I was acting mayor for Mayor Bussey. I attended the COVID-19 vaccination mayor's roundtable. That was really interesting. And if you're not aware, today Bonnie Henry made an announcement, and what she was just saying is the vaccination program is set to commence next week as per the age groups. As far as I know, there is no number yet or where those vaccinations are going to happen, but they will be letting us know ASAP. Also, I thought it was quite interesting. I don't know if anybody uses the COVID BC dashboard, but it gives you an up-to-date, it's on the CDC website, and it gives you an up-to-date daily report of how many new cases there are in BC, and it also splits it down by region. So it'll tell you how many new cases in the last 24 hours in Interior Health, in Fraser Health, etc. It's a really good program. And right in the bottom left-hand corner, they now have a little tab that kind of tells you, it states the total vaccine doses administered in BC. So that was a new addition to the dashboard. So again, it's the COVID BC dashboard. It's on the CDC website. It's super interesting. You can play around with it. It's very informative. And that wraps it up for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hoppel. Councillor Howe.
Thank you. Okay, Wednesday the 17th, I was present at the Southern Interior Local Government Association Speakers Series, which was provided via webinar. Jason Loke, the Community Planning and Sustainability Manager for the City of Kamloops, spoke on their North Shore Neighborhood Plan. So he spoke to the OCP process, or Official Community Plan process. And it was interesting because while sitting, listening to this gentleman speaking about the process, I realized just more, I was affirmed. It was a massive affirmation that we have a strong and knowledgeable administration who have been walking us through our OCP and working closely with Modus in providing the information necessary. So I want to thank our corporate officer, Kevin Taylor, and team for everything that they've been doing so far. I think that, you know, when looking at our processes that you've provided in tandem with Kamloops' processes, we're doing great. So thank you guys for all that you've been doing. On Wednesday the 24th, I was also present at the second of many to come SILGA Speaker Series. This one was on the local government advocacy and the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'll let Councillor Weeb and I are both in these speaker series, so I'll let her speak to that. And then Thursday the 25th, there was the Tourism Lillooet AGM, which had a solid turnout and resulted in the addition of new board members. So as it stands, the board chair remains as Stefan Ziegler, as well as board members Karen Playfair, Christina Ledoux, and Ralph De Bruin. And the new members are Brad Castleman and Alana Barbour. So with their sound strategic plan and championing major projects for tourism in Lillooet for 2020, I look forward to this organization's 2021 endeavors, and I encourage council to continue our support where we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howe. Councillor Leach.
All right. So I just have a couple of short little updates today. The East Lillooet Memorial Garden. It looks like the group working on it now that we have the grant money in place hopes to start work in April, and they think that it's going to take about four to 6 weeks to complete. So they're actually hoping to have it done by the Victoria Day weekend, and if not that, hopefully by the Canadian Day weekend. So that's kind of something to look out for. And then also I have an update for the SWIMS fundraiser. I'm just going to pull up some stats for you here because they have done very well in their efforts for the first month. I'm just bear with me for a second. I did have it up here. All right. So with their fundraising efforts in February, they were able to surpass their goal of $50,000 in February. So far, they've sold 70 pool passes totaling $17,700. They have donations at $4,725, and that includes the polar bear swims. Donations from the spin the wheel little prize thing that they've had outside of Bilo has just about equaled it's equal just over $900. They've had 5 sponsorships so far of about $9,000, and then of course the $20,000 from the SLRD. So total so far as just over $52,000, as well as there is a Purdy's Chocolate fundraiser going on, and then there's a couple of public or private citizens who are also doing a little fundraising campaigns for their birthday as well. So be on the lookout for that. So, and that's all I've got for you this week.
Thank you, Councillor Reach. Well done to the swims. Okay, Councillor Wiebe.
This could be scary if I get cut off. As Councillor Howe was saying, on February 17th, I attended by webinar the Silga Speaker Series with Jason Loke, and she gave the information on that one. On the 20th, I attended the Heritage Strategic Direction meeting at the District Hall, and Councillor Hopful has pretty well filled everybody in on that one. On the 22nd, I did a Zoom meeting with Modi about the roads in the area. And the updates are that the 10-mile slide is 65% complete. And Station Bridge, they will be doing more work on that on the summer of 2021. And I believe that'll probably be paving. There's kind of a big clunk on and clunk off that bridge. Road 40 was a really high priority, and that project out there is about $400,000. They did part of the paving. They started too late in the year. They will be continuing with it this summer, or spring or summer, depending on the weather. Mission Mountain, because of all the traffic on there, they are having meetings with BC Hydro due to some of the driving of their crews. Road 12 was repaved in 2018, so I don't believe they're going to be doing anything further there. Texas Creek Road is on the gravel list for replenishing gravel due to the washboard there, but there's no time frame on that. And it was brought up, but it's supposed to be dealt with at another meeting about the difference in the maintenance on Highway 40 coming out of Goldbridge. They start much earlier than they do here in Lillooet, which doesn't help our logging truck drivers very much. And the same with going through the big slide and whatnot. They need to start that earlier because of the school buses. Let's see. On the 23rd, I attended a webinar on childcare, and it actually changed my way of thinking a little bit. I've always kind of thought, you know, when I was younger raising kids, I was a single mom, worked, got my kids to childcare, paid for it. But things are different now. And they had some really good speakers. The one lady from Sicamous, I'm not sure if she was a mayor or a councillor, but they got 100% funding from UBCM to build a beautiful daycare center. And they were going to offer all kinds of programs and this, that, and the other. And then they realized, after it was all said and done, that most of the people that live out there are seasonal, and they actually didn't have any qualified workers. So they started advertising for out of province or out of city and so on and so forth. And they ended up having a lovely family who was very qualified move in and also gave them an extra taxpayer. So everything worked out in the long run, but it was very interesting. And then it set my mind to all the signs around town looking for help. And I thought, you know, if all they're getting paid is minimum wage and they're a single parent, maybe they do want to go to work, but if they don't have family or someone nearby to look after their children, they cannot afford to pay it. They'd be making like $2 an hour by the time they were done. So it really gave my mind a different perspective on that. On the 24th, I did another Silga Speaker Series, and it was Brian Frankel, the UBCM president. And he did talk a lot about the COVID chaos, pardon me, and the realities of COVID and the fatigue and the exhaustion and the isolation, and how as elected officials and our staff are so busy looking after the care and consideration of our constituents and what's going on around town and making sure that the protocols are followed and this, that, and the other, that we kind of forget about taking care of ourselves and our own families and our staff. And it was really enlightening as to the different standards out there for the general public and the elected officials. So that was another eye opener. And then he went on to talk about, the bullying. And I think that came up one other time at UBCM, I believe in my first term, about the way different councillors and mayors and staff treat each other in meetings, out of meetings, just general day-to-day stuff. And I guess I think we have a pretty good council and staff. I don't think we have too much of that going on, but from some of the stories that I heard, it can be quite something. And some of the advocacy points they have going are stimulus for infrastructure, revival of local government finance, which could be really interesting, so that we're not depending solely on taxes. So that's, I think they formed a committee a year ago, and that's being worked on. And let's see, what else have I done? On the 24th, I attended an SLRD closed meeting and an open meeting, and it went on into a committee of the whole on the 25th rather. And I can honestly say that they're going to try to keep our taxes down, which is great. And what are some of the other things? There's a lot going on out in Goldbridge. I really need to take a drive out there when the weather's permitting, because there has been a lot of interest out there and a lot going on, and I think it would be worth a tour. And other than that, when it comes to tourism experiences, that came up at our meeting as well, and I actually haven't checked it out, but it was advised to check out how they do tourism experiences in Alaska if you want to offer experiences in your town instead of just come and look at our museum. So that was my 2 weeks.
Thank you, Councillor Wiebe. Thank you, councillors. We'll move to item 17.1, CAO report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things to report. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful in both of our grant applications to the Community Economic Recovery Infrastructure Program, sometimes called CERP. Under the streams that we applied for, which was destination tourism, basically, they did issue $20 million of funding to the various regions throughout the province. Notably, in the spreadsheet of awards, this region had the least amount of funding of all BC regions by $1 million to $1.5 million. And I noticed some of our neighboring communities also did not get funding, which I think we were all expecting at least someone to get it. So we'll be following up to find out what happened there. I don't think we can change the past, but it'd be nice to know what was going through the minds of the people who were making these decisions. We're not giving up hope yet. There is still an outstanding grant application that's in for the Tourism Dependent Communities Fund, which we've applied for nearly $1 million of funding towards the municipal campground. And we do expect to hear the results of that sometime this month. And that fund is specific to a small set of communities throughout BC. So the competition is less. My guess with the CERP program is that, like they said in their rejection letter, there's nothing wrong with their application. They were just flooded with applications, so they were oversubscribed. So they had to make some tough choices. But I'd like to know why they didn't choose us. And then finally, the Business Facade Improvement Program, I do plan to launch that later this week. I know most people have probably read that in the paper, that the Business Facade Improvement Program was launched about a week or two ago for the SLRD Area B. This program will be launched by the District of Lillooet for businesses inside this community. So watch for that on our website and Facebook. And that's my report for today.
Thank you, Mr. Dennegar. There being no new business, we'll move to item 19, media and public question period.
Sorry, I saw a question from Councillor Leach.
Oh.
Sorry,
Who had their hand up first? Councillor Leach, go ahead.
Yes. Sorry, I just have a quick question for Jeremy. Just because we were going through the parcel taxes and utility stuff today. Has the district gotten an update from the province when the homeowner grant application process is going to be live? Because they've changed the program this year. Have you heard anything?
I've heard some things from our chief financial officer, so I'm going to let her speak to that because she's well aware of this program.
Yes, thank you. So as of January 1st of this year, municipalities, very few exceptions. There are some exceptions, very few, not us, no longer accept homeowner grants applications, neither current year or retroactive. Those are all done through the province now. My last update, I believe the website is now working, but they're not actually taking applications quite yet. It's a provincial government thing, so things move quite slowly. I think they're working out kinks with their website. As I get updates, I will post them both to our website and our Facebook to keep the public updated. But all applications have to go through the province. The district can no longer accept any of them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaRue. Councillor Howe, you had a question?
No, I was trying to flag you down on Councillor Leach's behalf.
So we good? Any other questions or comments from council on the CAO report? Thank you. And hearing none, we'll move to item 19. Media is now open to questions from media and public. Mr. Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nobody has indicated in this chat that they have anything to say, but I will give everyone a moment. If there is anyone who would like to ask a question, please turn on your camera now and you'll be called on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor. Thank you, everyone. I now seek someone to move that the March 1st, 2021 regular council meeting be adjourned. Councillor Hopfull, second Councillor Howe. Call the question. Those in favor? Councillor Wiebe? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff. Thank you, everyone out there. Have a good night.